it can still hear her voice. That tone, sweetened with the kind of arrogance only inherited wealth can purchase. Here's a sweatshirt and a $40 gift voucher. She stated, gliding the inexpensive fabric across the meeting table like she was giving scraps to a dog. Then came the grin, that condescending little curve of her mouth. You're fired, effective immediately. Her dad, the chief executive officer, sat beside her, quietly observing. No gaze contact, no explanation. Just the gentle hum of the air conditioner, and the sound of my profession dissolving in real time in a conference room in New York City. My $100,000 incentive vanished, my stock frozen, and all I received was a sweatshirt. Back then I believed in the enterprise, believed in them. When I joined, the startup was nothing more than a name on a presentation and a garage that smelled like burnt coffee and drive. I constructed the product framework from the very beginning. Lines of code extended nights, weekends blurred into quarters. I devoted everything because I thought we were creating something together. Her father was the dreamer she was. The image, and I was the engine behind both. She used to bring me coffee during late-night work sessions. Said she admired how my mind operated, how I never wavered under pressure. I misunderstood that for respect. The truth, she was observing me, gaining insight into my thoughts, preparing to take what she needed and dismiss me when I was no longer useful. The initial clue arrived months before the dismissal. Investor documents were shifting. My slides rewritten, my name silently vanishing from product attributions. Meetings changed without invitations. When I inquired, she smiled. We're just optimizing communication. I understood what that meant. You're being wiped out. The day before Series B submission, I observed something in the shared drive, a new folder labeled Founding Narrative Final. I wasn't supposed to view it, but they had reinvented history. According to that document, the chief executive officer's daughter had conceived, designed, and managed development of the entire platform. Me, I was listed under technical assistance. That's when the shift happened. The emotional aspect of me perished that evening. I didn't explode, didn't argue, didn't even alert them. I just began gathering every electronic mail, every file version, every contract draft, including the one where her father had forgot to update the founder equity provision before signing, a provision that on record still designated me as co-owner of the core intellectual property, a quiet 20%, that they never bothered to settle. Their pomposity was my weapon. They terminated me 2 weeks later. Reorganization, said the daughter, whose name was Chloe, smirking like it was a game. She was 30 years old, and she was talking to me, a man named Ethan, who was 27 years old, when she tossed that sweatshirt across the table. She thought it was a final point. She didn't realize it was a pause. I disappeared silently. No social media posts, no threats, no commotion. But behind the quiet, I constructed something new. I registered a holding corporation in Delaware under a different identity. Transferred the intellectual property rights from the provision into it legally, cleanly, discreetly. Then I waited. Series B funding was approaching. I knew how those financiers functioned. They would demand complete intellectual property ownership during due diligence, and when they checked the records, the absent element would emerge, a founder key, as we called it, the technical certification that verified the system. Without it, the entire platform couldn't expand, and I was the only one who possessed it. The day of the Series B meeting, I walked into the lobby in Chicago, not as an invited guest, but as a phantom. I'd been removed from the company schedule, but my access badge still functioned. Another error. Through the glass partition, I observed them perform. The CEO in his tailored outfit, his daughter, in her refined confidence, selling my system to men who measured opportunity in millions. Midway through, the lead investor halted. He was older, astute, the type of man who could sense deception in a statement. He held a folder. The termination record they'd sent him as part of the disclosure package. My name was on it. He flipped the pages, his brow tightening. Then he looked up. "Who's this?" he asked. The room became motionless. The CEO faltered. "Previous contractor no longer with us." The investor leaned back. Amusing. Because according to Delaware documents, he still possesses the core intellectual property through a holding entity. The hue drained from their faces. He slid the file back across the table and with composed precise accuracy stated, "Congratulations. You just lost your enterprise." The silence that followed was the kind you could submerge in. I didn't remain to witness the failure. Didn't need to. By the conclusion of the week, the financiers had withdrawn. The acquisition discussions froze. The daughter's smug expression vanished from the company website. I got an electronic mail a couple days later from her. "We need to converse." I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded it to the legal group managing the intellectual property repurchase. The value I established $4.5 million. Non-negotiable. They paid. It's unusual the way fairness feels. It's not noisy. It doesn't arrive with praise or celebrations. It's quiet, systematic, like closing a door and finally hearing the lock engage. The sweatshirt still dangles in my storage cabinet, creased untouched. A reminder of what occurs when you underestimate quietness. And sometimes when I look at it, I almost hear her voice again. That same ridicule, that false kindness. But now when it resounds, I smile, because I know how the story concluded. She handed me a sweatshirt. I handed her a bill. And in the end, I kept the company spirit, while she kept the empty vessel. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "Examine your documentation." Stories that shock, thrill, and stay with you, only on Home Exposed. Subscribe before the next one drops.